Hey, what's up YouTube? Today we're going to be doing some rear brake pads, rotors, as well as trying to change out the rear parking brake shoes. This is a 2004 Jeep Liberty limited edition with a 3.7 in it. I already loosened the lug nuts, but I'm going to go ahead and take them off the rest of the way, and then we'll get a closer up shot for you as far as what it looks like up close, so you know what we need to do next. Basically, what we have to do is basically just jack it up, support it with jack stands. I have the front wheels chucked so that it doesn't go flying on me here. These are actually 19mm lug nuts. Now sometimes they have these decorative caps on here and you have to take them off, and then you could probably get away with an 18mm. Like I said, I already pre-loosened these. Okay. I can actually unhook this air hose for now. Whoops, sorry about that, guys. Go ahead and take the wheel off. Give you a closer look here. That out of the road. So this is your traditional Jeep Liberty rear brake setup here. So you have your, obviously your rotor with your in-hat drums for the parking brake shoes. So what we're going to do is, these rotors are pretty rusted up here. They're not terrible, but for, you know, inspection and stuff, I'm going to get these all taken care of. The pads are mostly, they're not so much as that they're completely worn per se, the brake pads. They're just rust jacking just from what happens unfortunately in this area here. Depending on how this video goes, I may take the extra time, probably won't record it, but I may clean up the caliper here as well as possibly paint it, but we'll see what kind of mood I'm in here as this progresses. So now what we're going to be doing first is we're going to be going back here on the caliper, and there's going to be these two fasteners here, and there's going to be the one right there, and those two fasteners, if I can get you in here, see here, those two fasteners there are going to be what takes off the brake caliper here, so that will enable you to get into the caliper and also be able to take the rotor off. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to see if I can just kind of compress this in a little bit here with a screwdriver, which I don't think I'm going to be able to do, unfortunately, which isn't a big deal. It looks like it's fairly loose. That's good. So I believe it's a 13mm, so we're going to go ahead and try that first. And the survey says, yep, 13mm. Got my ratchet on loose in here. Go ahead and crack these loose here. Down here on this bottom one here. Let them go. So now we should be able to pull them out by hand most of the way. Let's make sure you're still within view. Yeah, it looks like you're, for the most part, there. Oh, too high. Go ahead and take them out. Don't have a camera guy here today, so we're going to do the best we can with what we're working with. These are pretty well lubricated. I lubricate the heck out of everything. I don't like stuff getting seized. So we got that done. So now there's this little tab here that is on the brake caliper, or on the brake pad, that you have to push down. I'm sorry, it's early, guys. Not working on all 4 cylinders yet. I've had my coffee. I had to go to the doctor's this morning for a follow-up for my new medication. So I'm not running on all 4 cylinders today. We're going to take this over and we're going to sit it back here out of the road. And then this is your hardware right here, which comes right off. And there's one on the bottom as well that should, sometimes you have to take them off and pry them. We're going to put them in a magnetic dish. I did not get the new hardware. Those ones are still good. And this should then be able to take the rotor here and work it off. There we go. Let's take a look here. So looking at these shoes, they actually don't look too bad. So what I'll probably end up doing is, before going through the trouble of replacing these, I may go and pull the other side and just see how bad they look, because if they don't look bad, I may not bother replacing these shoes. Let me look at the new ones here and just see comparison to meat. And I know they don't come with very much meat on them, so let's do a quick look-see here. Yeah, looking at the new ones there's really not any more meat on those than what's... Yeah, I may, well, before I replace these, I'm going to zip the other wheel off and just see what's going on over there first, because I actually may need not to do this. These brake shoes, parking brake shoes. So what we'll do is I'm going to pause you. I'm going to go zip the other wheel off, take the other caliper off, and just kind of get a look-see as far as what we're dealing with on the other side. And then I'll be back with you here in just a second to see if it's necessary to replace them. Okay, we're going to continue on here. I'm not going to film the rear parking brake shoes. As you can see from where I last left off, those are now removed. They're just too difficult to record. If I had a camera guy that could zoom in and zoom out, I'd gladly do it, but I would say there are other YouTube videos. I did find them out there that shows you how to do it. My suggestion is that when you do change them, make sure you lay everything out so you know where it goes. Got a couple new/used rotors. These rotors here came from the junkyard. It was on a vehicle that was junk that somebody had just put brand new pads and rotors on. And so what I did was I used high temp paint, painted the hats on them so that they would prolong. And I also got pads here that were also brand new from the junkyard too. Now this is your caliper here. So in preparation to prepare the caliper, accept the new pads, what you're going to have to do is, sometimes these can be pretty rusted. You're going to take the outer pad off first, flip it up so you can work on it here. And once you get the outer pad out, they can be really pretty rusted. This one was all rust jacked. Still a little meat left on them, it's a shame. And that is your caliper. So it's a good time to inspect everything, make sure everything looks good. You know, clean it up as necessary. I'm going to give it a little squirts here because I'm going to one of the most important things here about doing these calipers is that you want to make sure that that these slider pins here are well lubricated. And as you can see, hopefully you can see, those move very freely here. See, that is very important. Now I'm not going to touch these because I just had these off to maintenance just a few months ago, so I cleaned these all up and packed them with fresh grease. And what I use is the Ultra Brake Lube by Permatex, and you can get that pretty much at, you know, anywhere really. Advanced Auto is where I got it from, and that's what you can use to clean up those sliders in there. Make sure they're well lubricated, because if they don't work, your brakes will hang up and you'll have uneven brake wear, premature brake wear, and you know, I could just go on all day. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up the face of this here. You have to be careful because some of these could be like a plastic composite material, phenolic, I think, phenolic, I don't know. See if it compresses by hand, and it does not. So what I'll do is I'm going to grab a C-clamp. I'll be right back. Okay, I lied. I was going to grab a C-clamp, but I'm going to show you this tool instead. What this tool is basically a caliper compressor. And how it works is you have to basically wind it out here. I don't know if it's going to work on this style. We'll try it here. And then let's get it the right direction. What this does is it allows you to compress in the piston here. You just turn it. So let me grab some vice grips here because it makes this a little easier. They don't give you a very good, actually don't care too much for this style. I don't really like the way these are compressing. I mean, they're going in, but not very well. Let me try something different here. I think I'm going to, yeah, those are the plastic ones. Yeah, I don't care for the way that compressed. It's a little bit, I don't really want to get into putting new calipers on here, but if I have to, I will. Yeah, sometimes it's just easier just to stick with the good old-fashioned big old C-clip on here. So I'm going to put the old pad back in because we're definitely not reusing them. And got the big C-clamp here. I'm going to see how this feels. I also didn't take the cap off either, so that could be part of the problem on the brake fluid reservoir. So, well, that compresses a lot better. Sometimes it's just need more leverage. Yeah, that went in no problem. So I think it was just that tool, like I said, I mean, it's got a good concept, but it's probably a cheapy one. So that's probably why it didn't work real good. Alright, so that's fully compressed. We're going to go ahead and back that off. And there's a lot of controversy out there about as if should you disconnect the bleeder and bleed out the brake fluid so you're not pushing all the junk back into the master cylinder. I don't have much of an opinion on that. I've never had a problem doing it this way. I've done quite a few brake jobs. They say you could ruin your ABS module and stuff, but I've never had that happen. There's a little bit of a noise alert here. I don't know if this is going to get in there or not. Might have to do the old-fashioned wire wheel. Yeah, might have to get the wire wheel. This is, like I said, this is I believe, plastic on here, so I was just cleaning the junk up. I didn't put any pressure on there, and you also want to make sure that you don't damage your boot. So, probably wasn't a good idea that I showed you that method, but you get the idea. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop you for a minute so I don't have to keep getting up to get tools here 100 times. I'm going to pause you for a minute, and I'm going to get something to clean up the ears of the caliper here, and then make sure that we get this all greased up and ready to accept the new pads there. So hold tight for a second. Okay, so I'm going to try to use this wire wheel, see if I can get in there at all. That's really just getting rid of the big stuff, really. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, make sure you're still in the frame there, is I have this square file here. I'm just going to run it down on them back of them ears there. Like I said, this is very important for making sure that these pads are sitting nice and flush and they don't have any rust jacking. Just clean this all up here. Okay, I'm going to use this pointy end here to clean these little grooves out here. That'd be easier with a little screwdriver here. These are the little passages, these little notches here that the pads sit in. Alright, so I'm pretty satisfied with that. I'm just trying to get some of the big chunky stuff off here. Okay, and there's no air in the boot. Make sure there's no tears in the boot. I don't see any leakage going on here. So that caliper is pretty much prepared to accept its pads. I'm just going to clean this up one more time here. Get rid of any of the loose stuff that might be lingering here. And then what I like to use is, like I said, the Permatex, which is good for keeping the rust jacking down. Rust jacking is basically where the metal rusts and then it causes the pad to push off of the surface here. So go ahead and clean that up. Get rid of all the extra brake clean here. That's working good. I checked that again. Make sure there's no big chunks going on here. Like I said, these are pretty rusty, but they're not leaking. They're not rusted to the point where I feel like I'm going to lose my brakes or anything weird like that. So, okay. So that's nice and cleaned up. Looks good to me. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the new pads ready here. And so I got to figure out the direction this goes on. So this goes on like this. So I got to figure out what pad I need here. So I like it to go on with, let's see here, get my bearings here. This metal bracket, I like it to go up on here. So let me see which direction I need to go. I actually think I had the right one before. So, alright, so yeah, this is the proper way here. You even seeing this the proper way. So let me go ahead and prepare the caliper here. Probably one of the worst brake videos I've ever done because I'm not with it today. And all I'm doing here, if I can get back into the seam, I don't know how you guys do this with that camera, guys. Just going to put a little bit of this grease here. That just keeps the back of that from rusting to the pad and doing what they call rust jacking. You don't have to put globs and globs of it on there, but I just like to put a little bit on there. Kind of help prevent that pad from rusting there. And then I'll put a little bit on the front here too, just so that when that slider goes down in there, it slides down easily, a little hook. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do the inside pad now, which goes in like this. There's these little forks sticking out. Go ahead and put that in there. That's on, good. And then we'll go ahead and do the outside pad. Make sure the ears are clean on these. Okay. Let's go ahead and slip that over there. I'm going to press these down a little bit. Slide that down like that, and there you go. You got your brake pad installed, and those are ready to be installed. So now we're just going to move that aside and put that in a safe place. And while these are hanging out there, I'm going to work off camera on getting this area cleaned up. The other thing too, as far as putting on the new parking brake shoes, like I said, I would film it. It's just too difficult to film. I'm going to clean this area up too. If I can get that in the zoom there. These little ears right there. I'm going to clean these up here. These don't look bad, but this way they'll be good and clean. Okay. That area is pretty much cleaned up. The other thing that's important too is you want to clean up the surface of the hub here. Now this one's actually pretty clean. I'm going to hit it real quick here. Okay, so this one is clean. Alright, beautiful. So I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to continue to work on getting this area cleaned up to get the brake shoes for the parking brake shoes installed, and finish making sure this hub face is cleaned up, and then I'll pick you back up whenever we're ready to put the rotor on and reinstall the calipers, and go from there. So just hold tight, guys, and we'll be picking up here shortly. Okay, we're back now. I got the parking brake shoes replaced. Like I said, I didn't film those, and I do apologize that I didn't, but they honestly were a pain in the hoo-ha, and I wasn't about to go and spend the rest of my day trying to record that. So like I said, there are other videos out there on how to install these parking shoes. I got them adjusted pretty far out now, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put the rotor on, and we're going to put on the caliper back on. So first thing I'm going to do is I like to take a little of this Permatex grease and just put it on here. I'm going to start it with the brush, and I'm going to probably use my finger to get it where I want it to go. This keeps the rusting down underneath the hardware here, because if the hardware gets rust under it, it can do, like they call it, rust jacking. So I'll get those clips put aside, and then the next thing I like to do is take a little fluid film here and just put it on the hat of this wheel hub here, on the hub, so that it doesn't allow the rotor to get stuck on there. I'm going to try not to get this all over the brake shoes here. And that just kind of helps to alleviate. I'll go around here too, it stops the rusting on the hub. This just helps keep this hat from rusting. And also keeps the drum from getting stuck, or I'm sorry, yeah, the drum. So used to doing drum brakes all the time on the rear. Keeps the rotor from getting caught on it. So go ahead and clean up the... Now, sometimes you'll get these brake rotors here that have closamine, I think it's called, or closamine, I can't pronounce it. But what it is it's basically an anti-corrosion and anti-rust inhibitor they put in the packaging. Basically what I did was like I said, I bought these rotors used at the junkyard off a vehicle someone had junk that literally just got done putting on new brakes on it. So I was like, it's basically a no-brainer there. I'm going to go ahead and pull them off, and I just cleaned them up, and I painted the hat with some high-temp brake paint, or exhaust paint I should say, and we'll go ahead and get these on here. Like I said, we'll have to make further adjustments to the brake drums, or I'm sorry, the shoes, the parking brake shoes, whenever we're done. But this at least gets us to a point where we can get everything back together. I got it adjusted out pretty far, and this is sitting nice and flush there. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the hardware clips, and these never really stayed in place very much, so one nice thing about these is the grease that I put on here actually helps keep it in place. And then we're going to take your caliper here. We're going to go ahead and, now that we got the pads installed, which I already showed you how to do, we're going to go ahead and get these put back in. So I like to start the bottom first, and then the top we'll just click in with the little thing here. We'll actually click in right here. This helps keep everything seated. So now we can go ahead and grab the bolts here that hold in the caliper. I'm going to put a little bit of fluid film on them too, just kind of keep them from rusting up. That top one in place, just wiping them off here, get all the gunk off them. They're pretty clean. I don't really see a need to take these ones to a wire wheel. Just a little fluid film, and then pop that in there. And then you got to kind of wiggle the caliper around in place until you can get them to start here. Top one has started. Let's see, where's there? Now the bottom one. So you got to kind of wiggle them so they start threading in. And then we'll get our socket wrench here, which is the 13 millimeter, like I was telling you. Go ahead and get on there. Tighten them down. You don't want these over tight because you want them tight enough, obviously, to be safe, but you don't want your caliper coming off. But you also don't want them so tight that they strip, because these do strip very easily. The threads can be pulled out very easily on these, so you don't want to over tighten and ruin the threads on it. And then you, I believe these actually thread right into the bracket here behind the hub. So yeah, you don't want to have to replace that. And usually that's what actually pulls out, those threads. So it's usually not the fastener. So that's probably about tight enough there. Man, it's tight enough. Let's get one more check here. There, that's tight enough. Okay, I'm sure there is online. If you do some research, I'm sure you can find some online torquing specs for those. So now that that's all in place, you got your hardware on here. I reused mine. I just cleaned it up basically with a wire wheel. So you got your are you even seeing? Yeah, you can see me. So I got your hardware back in place here. Your new brake pads installed. Cleaned up the ears of the caliper here to make sure they were clean. Cleaned up the face of the piston coming out of the caliper, and after that, then obviously compress the caliper. Make sure your cap is loose on your brake fluid reservoir, and then go ahead and you start from the bottom and you lever it up like a lever, and you come up and it clicks in with this little thing there, keeps it in place. And then in the back here, on the very, very back area back here, there's a little rubber doodad, and that allows you to go in and make final adjustments to your parking brake. I'm not going to do that until I finish the other side first, because I don't want to take the I want to make sure I get the best possible adjustment here. That's pretty much it. You know, throw your wheel back on, torque your lug nuts to factory specs, and you know, that's pretty much all you got to do. Make sure before you do anything, check your fluid level on your brake reservoir, brake fluid reservoir. Make sure it's topped off. Also, tighten the cap and pump your brakes before you put it in gear. Because if you don't pump your brakes before you put it in gear, you're going to be probably driving into your garage door or into your neighbor's fence, because you will not have any brakes at all until you pump them up. So just keep that in mind before you go move, and make sure you pump them up. Like I said, not the greatest video today. I'm not running on all 4 cylinders today, unfortunately. I just want to do a quick video. I hope it helps somebody out there, because like I said, it's not that great. I apologize once again that I did not film how to do the e-brake shoes. If I had a camera guy, I absolutely would have, but they're really hard to do. You know, as far as, I don't want to say they're hard to do, they're just difficult to do as one person and be able to film at the same time. It can be a little bit tedious to do them. So I'm going to do the other side, and then I'm going to come back. Like I said, there's a little plastic cap down here at the bottom, or a rubber thing here, which I'm actually going to just take out and show you. This little rubber thing here, this goes in and it allows you to get a flathead, obviously a smaller flathead screwdriver in there, and you can move the little adjuster wheel up and down to raise and lower the shoes inside the drum, or inside the rotor hat here, and that's how you adjust them. So for now, I'm just going to leave this out in the catch in my little magnetic dish. I'm going to go to the other side do the brakes, pads, and rotors on that side. Change out the shoes. I'm not going to film that because it's the same as this, but like I said, I hope this helps somebody, and I thanks for watching, and please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe.